Good morning and welcome to the Adobe Premiere the Adobe Premiere Pro Creative Cloud Training. Say that 7 times fast. My name is Nate Cooper from ProMax Systems. Today we are going to be jumping into our third of a 4-part webinar series. So we're going to go over some really cool After Effects integration. And we are joined today by our friend Dennis Radicke from Adobe Systems. So Dennis is an absolute After Effects expert, and it's just a real pleasure to have you joining us today, Dennis. Thanks for taking some time out of your schedule.
It's very much my pleasure. It's great to be here.
Very cool. All right. Well, just a quick overview, just so everybody knows if you haven't been a part of the series so far. We have completed 2 of the 4 webinars. The first 2 webinars are available on our website at promax.com. So if you go to promax.com and check under our webinars section, you can actually find replays of those webinars. And as well as we do have, of course, our final webinar here 2 weeks from today. Same bat time, same bat channel. So we'll be going over some color corrections, some finishing Speedgrade stuff. So it should be pretty exciting. And other than that, we hope you guys find this content valuable, and please feel free to send us any comments, feedback, suggestions. We're always open to making these better. So without further ado, let's let the fun begin. All right, Dennis, I'm going to be sending the screen over to you. And you should be getting a prompt now.
Sounds terrific. So let's kind of hide this and get busy. So again, my name is Dennis Radicke. There's a blog, there's Twitter. You can find all that kind of stuff. I am actually, hopefully you're hearing me pretty clearly, and I'm in an office inside of CNN, so a special shout out and thanks to them for accommodating me on fairly short notice in order to help me to provide some time here for you guys. We're going to be covering, as Nate just outlined, some ideas on effects inside of Premiere Pro. Dynamic link, After Effects integration, what is it? I actually kind of take a different idea, a broader view about what I call dynamic link, but we'll explore directly what that is between Premiere Pro and After Effects, and then talk about really some of the other integration points that I think are really key between the Adobe applications, so things like Premiere and Photoshop, or Premiere and Speedgrade, Prelude to Premiere Pro, or Premiere Pro and Audition. All of those are connection points that exist today. And then we'll do a little bit of the titling options inside of Premiere Pro. Again, I think it's great to know that you have so many different choices, and those choices may change depending upon what you need to do at a given time, and how much time you have to spend. One other point that I'll emphasize, whether I'm doing a webinar or I'm doing a small presentation for a broadcaster or I'm doing a large live event, I love questions, and I really feel that you will get so much more out of it if you have a chance to ask questions and get them back to me. So hopefully you've got a question pod or something that you can type into. I know Nate's going to be watching and monitoring those while I'm talking. If there's an appropriate time, he'll chime in, and certainly I'd like to end perhaps a few minutes early so that we can go through some questions. So all that to say, it's important, I feel, that if you have something, jot a note down or type it into the Web Connect thing, and let's make sure that you're getting the answers to the things that are on your minds today. Okay, so with that, let me just kind of jump into the first section, which is really the idea of effects. So we're inside of Premiere Pro. Let me get into the actual app. And, I have my kind of, my interface, and again, you can kind of customize that and do whatever you like, and make sure it's all bright. And over here, you have the effects panel. And I won't go over the basics too much, but I do think it's important to cover some of these things. So things like accelerated effects, I'll come back to that one, 32-bit color, YUV, color space, and of course now one of the newer things that's been out there is Anywhere compatible effects. And we won't be talking about that today, but it is something that's interesting and new from a collaboration point of view. But really, if you click on one of these, so for example, accelerated effects, if I click on these, now you'll be able to see and sort and see all of the ones that are accelerated, in this case by the GPU. And I'm going to assume that at this point, everyone kind of knows that, hey, accelerated effects means these are accelerated by the graphics card that exists in your system. And so today, just in full disclosure, excuse me, I'm using about a 1.5 to 2-year-old MacBook Pro, a 17-inch model, last 17-inch MacBook Pro that has, I think, an NVIDIA card in it, and so I have a little bit of GPU acceleration. Obviously, a laptop card is not ideal. But, so, you know, we have the CC release that shipped in June. We've shipped a new update 701 in July 10th. And now, just a few days ago, we announced an upcoming release that will be available shortly that's coming up. Now, between CS6 and CC, most of the effects, to be honest with you, inside of Premiere Pro are mostly the same. But I think there's some things that are worth reminding people about or giving some new education about if you don't know about these things, and also to talk about some of those things that are new and some of the things that are different, so that wherever you are and whatever you do, there are some things that you might be able to glean and get from this. So the first thing that I'll kind of point out is that I think should be a refresher for most people, that I think just cannot be underscored enough, is the importance of an adjustment layer. So I'm going to go ahead and create an adjustment layer. It kind of knows what the frame size of my sequence is here, so 1280 by 720 sounds good. And there it is. Now, what is an adjustment layer? Well, if you're a user of Photoshop or After Effects, it basically says whatever is below the adjustment layer will be affected. Whatever is above the adjustment layer will not be. So, for example, if I move this clip up here and I do an effect, that clip right there will not be affected, but all of these other clips down here will be. And furthermore, an adjustment layer is important because it is a map. And how is it a map? Okay, what are you talking about, Dennis? Well, we think about white to black, or in this case, more accurately, white to transparency. So if I had an image, say a Photoshop image, that had a nice soft gradient circle that was going from white to transparency, and I put, for example, maybe a color effect on that, only the area that is white in the adjustment layer would be affected. So in other words, if I had done that soft circle, only the where the white and gray values are would be affected proportionately by that color grading effect. And anything can be an adjustment layer. So if you're an After Effects artist, or you are familiar with things like the threshold effect or something like that that can turn things to absolute values of black and white, you can use those things as ways to kind of creatively cater to the effect that you're looking for, and use that, again, that black and white value or those shades of gray value to create a powerful effect tool for you. So anyway, I'm not going to get into all the masks and all that special stuff. I'm just going to kind of do the basic stuff here. So you can see I just got some clips from some baseball stuff. I figure, hey, we're getting close to October baseball, some sports fans out there maybe. So I've got the adjustment layer there, so anything that I put on it will be affected by it. So just to kind of start off, maybe I'll just type the fast color correction and put that on there. And now go over to my effects control panel. What's nice about this is, again, if you're an After Effects user coming to Premiere Pro, the effects controls, or the ECP, is basically identical. So keyframing is both powerful and hopefully familiar. I'm going to just remove the keyframing in this particular case and just show how easy it is. So I can just kind of grab this. And one note, obviously, I'll be doing a lot more scrubbing than I'll be doing actual playing. And that's because while, you know, the web sharing technology here, WebEx or Adobe's Connect technology is really fabulous and great, expecting 30 frames a second of video through the internet pipe is probably a little bit ambitious still at this particular point in time. So, you know, if your screen isn't refreshing quite as quickly as you're hoping, or you're seeing the video choppy on my screen, that's not necessarily my laptop doing anything, but rather the web sharing technology not being able to keep up. So again, I've done this, and I'll hit play here, and you can see that that effect has been applied to all of those clips. Now again, if I take this clip, for example, and do it, see these now have it, but boom, that one does it. And that's interesting, okay?
Hey,
All right.
Dennis, one question. Can adjustment layers still work if they're used within nested sequences?
Yes. Again, so nesting always supports the hierarchy in the order in which you layer and then nest. So in other words, if the question is, if I put a multi-layer sequence and I nested that and then put an adjustment layer on top of that, would it work? Yes. Similarly, if I put an adjustment layer on a sequence and then nested both the clips and the adjustment layer and drag that into another sequence, would that work? The answer is also yes.
Very cool. Thanks.
Okay. So one of the things that is new that I wanted to show and talk about between CS6 and CC when it comes to Premiere Pro is the idea of the Luma Tree looks. Now, what is Luma Tree? Well, that is the color engine that we get from Speedgrade. So I'll just kind of quickly open up Speedgrade here, and you can see, well, we're in that mode. We can kind of go here, and you can see, you know, just a very powerful color correction engine. As I kind of move around, you can see all these different things, and I've kind of done these wacky things here, like the minority report here. I kind of built my own little minority report, kind of a cool blue effect and stuff like that, and click that on there. So again, powerful tools. These are what's called non-destructive LUTs. L-U-T stands for lookup table. So it's a very powerful industry standard means of communicating and moving color information from program to program. And so part of Speedgrade is creating these LUTs or .look files. And in Premiere Pro CC, we now have these, a lot of the same Luma Tree effects, or presets, excuse me, from Speedgrade are now available inside of Premiere Pro. So for example, if I want the classic sepia thing, I have this clip selected, I just select this and double click it, and now my entire timeline is now sepia tone. So I can kind of give it that old-fashioned kind of look. So first of all, there's that, right? So that's a bunch of neat ones that are there. They can help give you just a gentle warming or cooling effect. They can give you kind of some black and whites. They can give you a starting point from which to do things. Or if you're trying to do a one pass before you send it on to an actual grade, these are all useful workflow cases that you could talk about. The other thing, though, is, in fact, the actual Luma Tree effect. Okay, so I'm actually going to add that to it. And you notice it opens up a dialog box. Now, I happen to go ahead and export my speedgrade.look file, that minority report, and I can go ahead and put it to my desktop, and I'll go ahead and open it, and now I take that and apply that now to my baseball clips. Okay, so you can see all of those clips, and again, you can see that there's a difference between cinematic and video. You can see how much highlights need to be pulled down, but you get, again, the basic kind of idea. One other thing, though, let me just go ahead and just get rid of the adjustment layer for a second. One of the things about the effects that are important to note is that there are more that are accelerated. So with each version that we do, one other thing to look at, if you're using an hardware accelerated system, and again, remember, if you're a Mac person, both OpenCL and CUDA exist for you. Really, minimum requirements are having a graphics card that has at least 1 gigabyte of graphics card RAM, if you will, or GRAM. More and more, with each iteration, we try and accelerate. So, for example, a lot of hardcore people would love Rgb Curves. Now, on CS6, actually up until a couple weeks ago, that was not accelerated. Now with CC, we did accelerate it, and we happened to turn it on with the last release for CS6, I believe, with 605, which we just added. So now if I drag that onto that particular thing and I start playing around with some of these curves and maybe bump my gamma a little bit, I'm going to bring up my green and make the green, the grass is really popping. Maybe that's a bit much. Maybe I want to make it cooler a little bit. Whatever the case might be, that is now accelerated by the graphics card. So there's a few or several that we try and knock off every time. Finally, the one other thing that I wanted to show here, let me get rid of that as well, is here towards the end. Let me zoom in a little bit. I've got just a basic cross dissolve here. But it's important to note that more and more third-party effects are available for Premiere Pro. Clearly, they're all available as effects, but now a growing number of them are starting to become available as transitions, and you should keep an eye out for that. And I wanted to just show you one example of those. If I type film no, not film impact. Let's see. Let me go to my video transitions, and there's these filmimpact.net ones. There's a bunch there. They're really cool. They're very hip. So you know, let's take the earthquake one just to be really outrageous here and kind of do that. And I don't know how much you will see of this as it plays, but it is a really neat, stylish kind of transition that you can see. Hopefully it comes across fairly well as I kind of scrub back and forth. So there's a whole bunch of those, and you know, they're very inexpensive. And again, more and more companies are kind of coming out with these that I think are very valuable. All right. Moving on from just straight effects inside of Premiere Pro, let's talk about integration with After Effects. And this is where I'm a little bit different, because clearly Dynamic Link, if we look at that right there, that is After Effects. New After Effects composition or import After Effects composition. But I've always held the view that really Dynamic Link is, the broader sense to me is the idea of the integration between the applications that I've talked about earlier in my introductory remarks. But let's start with After Effects here. So not everyone's an After Effects user, and I totally get that, but you can get templates. There's a lot of ways. Maybe your buddies are better at that if you're not. And there's so many great tutorials that are out there that it really behooves you to kind of go out there and spend the time to learn it. So let's go ahead and with my, I'm going to go ahead and do a new After Effects composition. And this one's old P2 stuff. And you can see I already have After Effects open. I'm going to kind of come back and show you something here. Talk about one of the new things inside of After Effects that I think is really cool. And now I've kind of got this kind of blank, composition. There's nothing really going on here. So again, I'm going to be kind of goofy. I always take something really simple and kind of goofy, but that's so I have the time. And I've just gone ahead and typed in river here in my effects and presets, and that's a motion background. So you can see that it's a nice little animated background here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just quickly go here into my comp settings. I don't need a 30-second comp. I just need a 5-second comp, right? And then finally I want to kind of cut this out and make this just a simple, lower third, and maybe I'll put something out over here as an ad, and maybe make it bigger over there. So we've got a bunch of masks. And then let's take all of them and feather them. So maybe several pixels. Okay. So then if I go ahead and hit save, it's saving the whole project. But you'll see when I go back to Premiere Pro that, in fact, there is that comp that's right in there. Okay, there it is. And in fact, if I go ahead and I hit play, what's remarkable is you may not be seeing it across WebEx playing, but it's playing in real time because it's a simple composition inside of Premiere Pro. That's amazing, because nothing in After Effects is ever real time. Now, where the magic is and where Dynamic Link really, shines is in the idea of iteration. If you're coming from Final Cut or Media Composer or, frankly, any other NLE and you use After Effects today, if I'm the After Effects artist and you're the editor, here's the deal. I go ahead and, create a title, and I type Dennis Rad, You know, that's my name is Radke. So I have an obvious misspelling, or perhaps, you know, I'm called Denise, or that's the French spelling. So we can mangle my name in all kinds of ways. I'm so used to it. We'll just kind of put it down there as a misspelling. I'm not even going to hit save. I'm just going to tab back to Premiere Pro, and there it is. It's updated. Now, with the other NLEs or any other system, I'm going to go here to After Effects. I'm going to hit, you know, composition, you know, and render, right, or get out and render the composition out. And then you go, oh, Dennis, you know, you misspelled your own name, dude. Come on, let's get a move on. All right. But now, again, with this dynamic link, the idea is the key advantage is time savings. And how does that manifest itself? Well, it's from no digital intermediate renderings. And I think that that's really, really important, and it can't be underscored enough. And again, as I go back to Premiere Pro, it's almost instantaneous. It just updates. And again, if I go back here and hit play, it's still pretty good. And let's go ahead and with this, let's go back to the beginning and do another preset just because it's easy. Scale up, maybe. Scale up, yeah, scale up. We'll do that one, sure. And so now I can go ahead and do a RAM preview for you. You can see it there. There it is, very nice. Okay, and go back to Premiere Pro and hit play, and there it is. Now I can go over here, drag it on top of my timeline. Whoops, let me just take the video. I don't have any audio here. And the alpha channel automatically works. It plays. I actually stuttered a little bit here. But what's neat is, as I play, I didn't even stutter that time, but I was going to point out that the RAM cache between After Effects and Premiere Pro is shared. So we're doing everything we can to give you the most quality, high-performance experience between two applications at any given time. Okay, so just taking a quick detour since we're talking about effects, one of the big new things about After Effects clearly has been this idea of the integration with Maxon. I just wanted to kind of dip into it for a quick second. So you can see here what I've got is just a clip. It's a pretty long clip, about 10 seconds, of a guy running, some explosions. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and tracked the camera and added a solid. So there's that solid that's kind of very, you know, and again, the camera tracker in CC is just awesome. It's the bomb, it's the shizzle, and it just is, it's welded to that ground. And so what I can do here is we've got for the first time this kind of dynamic link functionality, but wait for it, for an application that does not begin with the word Adobe. And I think that that's really cool, and it speaks to Adobe's commitment to openness and to partnerships and to working with other companies. So if I go over here to export, I'm going to go to the Maxon Cinema 4D exporter, and I'm going to go to my desktop and just call this ProMax, and we'll hit save. And now I'm going to go ahead and launch Cinema 4D. I have a full version, but you get this very powerful light version included with your CC subscription. And so let's just go ahead and open that ProMax C4D up right there. And you can see if I play it, you can see that it just kind of moves. Great, that's fine. And what I'm going to do is just show you really quickly. Whoops. I'll just type some text here. We'll type ProMax. We'll go to, come on now, catch up with me. Enter sends, man, is kind of my favorite one. Let's go to the size and make it a little bit bigger. Go ahead and create just a simple white material, drag it on top of the text. We'll also extrude it. This looks hard, but it's a piece of cake. Trust me, if I can do it, you can. And I'm not kidding because I'm not a 3D guy. I'm just parenting these things down there. And let's just make sure I get the right material on there. Oh, I don't need the solid. Okay. Let's turn that off. And I will just leave it like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and, oh wait, one other thing is I'll make the extrusion a little bit deeper so you can kind of see it. And I don't know why it wants to do that for me. There we go. Okay, there you go. I'm not going to get into the lights or the fillets or anything like that. I'm just going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to go back to After Effects. Let's go ahead and import that ProMax Cinema 4D, which by itself is pretty crazy. I mean, you know, you would expect it to just kind of barf, After Effects to barf on this, but no, it's right there. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the solid, and I'm just going to go ahead and show this as a final, and you can kind of click around, and you can see that it's all tracking, right? So as we move through the clip, it's tracking. So that true 3D capabilities now integrated inside of After Effects is a really, really powerful thing. And it's one of the things that I think many, many After Effects users and many Creative Cloud users are really excited about. So think about that for Premiere Pro. You can get a Illustrator logo if you're doing some corporate work, bring it into Cinema 4D, do a quick extrusion, bring that into After Effects, bring that After Effects comp into Premiere Pro, and suddenly you have 3D extruded twirling bugs inside of your Premiere Pro timelines. That's pretty good. In fact, I'll show you an example of that in just a little bit. But let's go ahead for now and go back to the idea about Premiere Pro and in terms of different ideas of integration. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. One of the things that I've always said is, you know, every Final Cut system in the past, every Media Composer system in the past, and certainly today still, would always have two things in common. That's Photoshop and After Effects. And clearly I've already demonstrated the kind of you know, matchless beauty of the integration between Premiere and After Effects and how it's, you know, head and shoulders above what you can get anywhere else. But I say the same thing. If I can't do a better job of integrating Photoshop inside of Premiere Pro than anyone else, well then, you know, really that's shame on me, you know? So if you look inside of Premiere Pro, I can actually generate a new Photoshop file directly inside of Premiere Pro. So I could go ahead here and go, it even knows, it goes, there's the frame size, and it goes, hey, I think it's HD anamorphic, which he happens, Photoshop or Premiere Pro thinks is correct. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm going to go put this on my desktop with my secret code word to myself, delete me, and I'm launching Photoshop from inside of Premiere Pro. So pretty groovy. You know, I don't know. I'm just going to do, you know, something like this or whatever, and let's pick a different color. Let's pick Someone Loves Aquamarine. I know, somewhere. And then we'll do a new layer. New layer, and we'll say ProMax Systems. Why not? Okay, just kind of put that down there and hit Save. Go back to Premiere Pro, and there it is. And again, you can kind of go down there and do that. Now, that's not bad, okay? Pretty cool, but what's really interesting is I can go here and do a gradient. So let's just go ahead and do a gradient. And where the problem has been for other NLEs has been when you kind of do something like, oops, let me get into the right, this one, normal, reverse, dither, transparency, oh, opacity, yes. Oh, well, I'm not, I guess I won't even fool around with it, but let's do something else. I'll tell you what, same thing. Whether it's a layer mask or a layer style. Oh, I forgot to do the mask. Shame on me. I will do the bevel and emboss, which is awful. But if you did this, that's when a lot of the other systems would say, hey, I don't understand what this PSD is made of. You know, it just wouldn't do it. But I just go ahead and hit Save in Photoshop, and momentarily it updates, and there it is. And it updates in the timeline, updates in your source view. So it's really great. And this, to me, is really the greater idea of what Dynamic Link is. Let me go ahead and talk through.
Yeah, Dennis, one quick question.
I won't actually.
With Adobe Premiere Pro, what all applications do have Dynamic Link options from the Creative Cloud suite?
Well, so if we want to officially use the term dynamic link in its true official capacity, right? So dynamic link is right now just an After Effects thing. But when you take it in what I think is the more proper and larger idea of integration points between the applications, besides Premiere and After Effects, there's After Effects to Premiere because you can import a Premiere timeline into After Effects. There's Premiere and Photoshop that I just showed. There is right here File, Premiere, Send to Speedgrade. And one of the most important announcements that we've made for the upcoming releases at IBC is we will now have a much more dynamic link-like capability between Premiere Pro and Speedgrade. So guys, check out the videos that are online right now on that. That's some really, really exciting news. So you've got now bi-directional back and forth between Premiere Pro and Speedgrade, and that's coming out. Another one is Prelude to Premiere Pro. If you're logging footage, if you're adding metadata, you can create a rough cut and send that to Premiere Pro. And then finally, there is the idea of integration with Adobe Audition. So I can go here with the sequence selected or the timeline selected. I can go ahead and edit in Adobe Audition and export my sequence. And if you can see, I'll zoom in here a little bit. You actually can rename it. You can do the entire sequence or mark your in and out. You can export the preview video, which I don't typically do, but you can if you really are ready to do some audio posting stuff. It just takes a lot longer. You render audio. You have all these different options. And in fact, I think I did this a little while before I got on this call. So let me show you what the timeline actually looks like. And, you know, honestly, it's at the point where I'm not even sure I can remember all of the integration points. But to your to the question, Nate, I think that I've hit the big one. So, you know, Premiere and After Effects, obviously, Premiere and Photoshop, Premiere and Speedgrade, Premiere and Audition, Prelude to Premiere Pro, Premiere to After Effects, Photoshop and After Effects. After Effects and Photoshop will take Speedgrade LUT files or .look files. There's just, again, just a wealth of different integration points, and that's really what we care about. So if you take a look at this, let me make sure that I have all my tracks here. Yeah, I do. And if I go here to the Premiere timeline, and let's go ahead and let's make the audio tracks look a little bit bigger, and you can take a look at this, and then switch over to Audition. You can see that it's all there. You know, we basically take that. I can go in here now, and then if I zoom in, for example, maybe on this, and I want to do a fade in or a fade out or something like that, or, you know, I want to shorten it or I want to do a fade like that, all of that's there. And then when I'm done, export to Premiere Pro. It goes back. So I could go ahead and export this as XML. I could export each track as its own audio track as I had it in Premiere Pro, or perhaps more likely, I'm going to mix the session down to a mono, stereo, or a 5.1 file and open it inside of Premiere Pro. When I do that in Premiere Pro, it's going to ask me, hey, do you want to replace the tracks? Do you want to do it in a new track? Whatever you want to do. So again, a tremendous amount of options and foresight in terms of not only doing the integration, but making sure that it's very robust. So with that, I think I've covered a fair amount here in terms of the broader concept of dynamic link, at least to my eyes or to my ears. I'd like to finish with talking about the last item and show some of these things, which was titling. That was the last little bit in terms of this hour-long session. And we'll have plenty of time for questions. So I certainly hope that people are typing away feverishly. I don't have to stay on any kind of script, so by all means you can type some different things in, and if I can answer it, I absolutely will. If I can't, I'll tell you, and Nate will get me your question, and I will try and feed it back to him so that you guys get the answers to the questions that you have.
Very cool.
So titling. You know, I've always been kind of a titling or typography junkie because just like, you know, audio is what makes a movie, right? It's the audio that emphasizes the emotional content of the visuals that you're watching. Similarly, titling is key in many types of storytelling vehicles to actually helping convince and convey the message that you're trying to do. So in Premiere Pro, you have actually, I would call, 3 very capable built-in titling tools. 2 we've already talked about, and I want to come back to them, which is Photoshop and After Effects. But I also want to start with the built-in titling tool that's right here. So I'll just go ahead and do a default still. We'll call this Pro Max Title, and we can kind of go ahead and make this pretty big. And what's neat about this is it's a very rich tool set, as you can see. So you can see there's a lot of tools here, you know, selection tools, shape tools, alignment tools. I can be looking at different parts of my timeline, so I don't want to be doing the title creation over a title itself, so I'm going to go to a different frame of the video in the timeline. I've got some typed presets, and of course I can create my own. But perhaps if you're a title junkie like I have been in the past, is these title properties. You can go ahead and basically add as many fills and these, well, let's go ahead and just start with something. Let's just take this one, which is awful looking, but it's a good example. This is awful typography.
I think it looks very nice.
Okay, so let's go up here, pick this, and move this over here. But it does illustrate some of the capabilities. So you've got opacity, basic position, width, height. You've got you can pick your fonts and stuff like that. So as I go ahead and do that, you get not only the font name itself, but a representation of what it's going to look like. So if I want to change to the impact and do that, then that's great. You can see, obviously, that it's got a big slant here, so I can maybe take off a lot of that slant. But then you get into the fill types, which really become interesting. Linear, radial, 4-type gradients, bevels, eliminates, and ghosts, which are more tricky. Those last 2 are really kind of tricky kind of things to fool around with, but they're a lot of fun. You can get into sheens and stuff like that, so you can see, it's hard to kind of see in this one. But, and then also add as many, listen to me, as many inner and outer strokes as you want. So you can go ahead and create really some pretty crazy typography if you want to. And then, of course, you can do different shapes. You can create Bezier paths. You can have those aligned to different lines to the Bezier path here using the pen tool. There's just a tremendous amount of things that you can do here. So we'll just go ahead and leave that there like that. But you can see that there it is. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I meant to load it up here in the source view. And I can just take it down here, take a look at it, and there it is. All right, so you also have some templates if you want. So it ships with a tremendous number of title presets, especially, where is it, lower thirds. So there are a lot of lower thirds that are down here, all different kind of styles, and I think you might find something and use that as a baseline and make it your own. We've done also some neat upgrades, specifically with titling. If you've used the Premiere titling before, if you change this one, this is awful typography, and you want to duplicate it, it didn't work, really. And the bottom line is we've now fixed that, so we can go ahead and duplicate the title itself, and it'll be a distinct, unique title that you can use, change the text, and make it its own instance and stuff like that. But then again, moving back here, as I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, go back to the beginning of the timeline, this was something that I made in about 10 minutes, to be honest with you, with the built-in titling tool. And you can see here, you know, I brought in the logo, so you can do logo placement in there. You can see the sheen that I added to it. I added a sheen both to the fill and to the stroke that's there. I added a drop shadow to the text. There's a lot of content in here. But I did it in less than 10 minutes. And then from there, that's my style. I can also build a new title off the basic template, which is also another new feature. And then I went ahead and did kind of the same thing, but a slightly different treatment with Photoshop, right? So there you can see as you look in here, there it is as a PSD. All right, so there it is. And now these two I happen to do. I was doing this. I had a sports conference that I had to do. I'd gotten some content from the Royals. They gave me permission to use their material for the seminar. And I said, hey, can you give me a sample of your title cards or what you get out of your VizRT or your Chiron? And so they did, and they showed me this. This is what kind of their motion graphic one was. And so I rebuilt that as a static Photoshop fill, again, using the logo, giving it some depth, and using, this one took about maybe 30 minutes to build out. And then once I was there, I basically built it inside of After Effects. And you can see this one here playing. I rendered it out. And now I took that, I extruded it in Cinema 4D. And so you can see that the logo is kind of moving back and forth. And you can see the sheens moving. See those sheens moving? I've got lens flares going. And I rendered that out ultimately inside of After Effects, but using Photoshop for the basics, After Effects for my animation and final composite, and Cinema 4D to not only take the logo in, but extrude it, give it depth, give it style, and then use all of those tools together to render it out inside of Premiere Pro. So again, just to sum up, I'm coming up to the questions part here for you. You're going to have a good 15 minutes. I hope we'll fill it. We covered effects. So in terms of effects, between CS6 and the CC releases, not a ton of different things. There are a few things, and I certainly glossed over some things, but a lot of it are same. I really emphasized the adjustment layers, and if you don't know what that is, certainly spend some time. It's a very, very powerful tool that I really like. One of the new things in CC that I think is great is the Luma Tree engines. They're non-destructive color effects that are very powerful. You can not only use the presets that are available to you, but you can go ahead and create your own or export them from Speedgrade to use them. And then in terms of other effects, more and more continue to be accelerated for hardware GPU acceleration. And I pulled out the Rgb Curves as one example of that. And then finally, in terms of effects, not only the great effects built into Premiere and After Effects and all the other applications, but third-party applications. The one I pointed out was Film Impact. It's a great little set of Premiere transitions. After Effects integration specific, that's the true idea of what dynamic link is. It's the whole idea of not digital intermediate rendering. I dipped into After Effects with Maxon's Cinema 4D Lite and showing you what you can do there and how you can integrate a After Effects with a true 3D application, and then taking the concept of dynamic link and extending it out to really what are integration points between various Adobe applications, Premiere and Photoshop, Premiere and Speedgrade, Prelude to Premiere, which I didn't show, Premiere to Audition, which I did show, Premiere to After Effects, which I didn't show, and there's just, again, a ton more that are available. And then finally, we just showed a little bit on titling. I really love the titling, and without naming names, there's a lot of great editing tools that are out there that do not have great titling tools built in, and consequently, those people used Photoshop. Well, you can use Photoshop inside of Premiere Pro and do it better. But also, we have a terrific titling tool built inside of Premiere Pro that is more than very usable. It's excellent. And finally, if you're an After Effects user, obviously you can integrate some very powerful titling capabilities. The character animation tools that are inside of After Effects are second to none, and bring that inside of Premiere Pro as well. And so with that, I'd like to turn it back to Nate. Maybe he's got some questions for me, and you guys can certainly let me know some questions.
Yeah, we've got some questions lined up here, so we'll just kind of dig right into these. One question about audio is, can you export an entire sequence audio from Audition in CS6, or is that only in Creative Cloud that you can do that?
Can you ask that question again, Nate? I'm not sure I get what the question is.
Yeah, it's can you export the entire sequence audio to Audition? Can you do that in CS6?
Yes, you can.
Okay, cool. So that
So
wasn't a new feature.
same functionality exists. So again, this is a nice big beefy audio timeline, right? So you can see a lot of audio going on here. And it's the same functionality. If you go into the Edit menu inside of Premiere Pro, and this I believe holds true for both Mac and PC, if you go to Edit in Adobe Audition, you can export your sequence, and you'll have that same dialog box with control over stems and how effects are handled between Premiere and Audition.
Okay.
So yes.
Cool. We've got actually a few more kind of Creative Cloud versus CS6 questions. One of them also audio related. Somebody says if they rename their audio tracks in Premiere, will those keep the same names when sent to Audition? In CS6 they said they did, and in Creative Cloud it does not seem to.
That's a good question, and one to which I don't honestly know, because when you change the name inside of Premiere Pro, for example, if you change the audio track inside of Premiere Pro, you're not really changing the actual file name that resides on your Mac or your PC. You're changing it inside of how Premiere Pro sees it. So if that did work in CS6 and didn't work in CC, I would log a bug on that and see if we can get that fixed and addressed for you, because that would be, I don't think that's a killer problem, but it's certainly something that's important to a lot of people, so we'd like to take care of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. In Creative Cloud, do you still have Premiere Pro Dynamic Link to Encore?
No, that's a very good question. So with Creative Cloud, we did not, if you want to call this, some people would like to call it CS7, and I certainly wouldn't be one of those. But for practical purposes, there is no Encore CC, okay? So if you're a Creative Cloud member, you can still get Encore CS6 and install it, and there is on the Adobe blogs the workflow in order to get from Premiere Pro into Encore CS6, Premiere Pro CC into Encore CS6 to offer your Blu-rays, your DVDs, or a Flash SWF file. So you still have access to that file, and that is not a product that has been discontinued. We still have it available. We just did not create a new rev for it. And that said, DVD authoring is pretty much fixed. In other words, it hasn't evolved, it hasn't changed, so there wasn't really anything we could add there. With CS6, we brought Encore to a full native 64-bit port. We had already done Blu-rays. We improved our Blu-ray authoring experience. We had already added pop-up menus, but we improved that as well. So it was hard to kind of find a compelling case for us to do what we were going to do further with Encore at this particular time. But again, just to recap, Encore still exists. It is still part of the Creative Cloud, so if you're a Creative Cloud member, you should be able to get access to Encore CS6, which is done through Premiere Pro CS6.
Very cool. All right, for Premiere Pro and Speedgrade dynamic linking, do you need to transcode, or can Speedgrade handle native file formats that you're editing in Premiere Pro?
So and that's another great question, and that's one that is changing as we speak. So if you look right now today, if I go File, Send to Adobe Speedgrade, this would actually take this timeline, render it out via Adobe Media Encoder to a DPX file, which is a standard film grade processing, digital intermediate file. So the idea is like, hey, I'm done with my edit, now I'm going to my grade. But as color becomes democratized, meaning more and more people do it, and they do it iteratively, so it's throughout the creative process, that kind of workflow, frankly, isn't going to work. And so today, the simple answer is yes, you do have to render, even though Speedgrade handles most of the formats that Premiere handles. But moving forward, and I alluded to this earlier in the presentation, we will have a direct-to-Speedgrade functionality. So this file, send to Speedgrade, whoops, where is it? Send to Speedgrade will be changed to something else. I forget the exact words. But now it'll be much more non-destructive back and forth, which is something that we haven't had. And I think it's probably the most exciting of the 150 new features that we've announced for our fall release. This is probably one of the most exciting, certainly top 3.
All right, very cool. Now, here's a good question. You had created a new Photoshop file directly within Premiere Pro using the dynamic link.
Yep.
So frame size should have been matched. Why did the lower third not extend to the left edge of the video once it was applied to the timeline?
Yeah, so let's see, where is that? I think I saw that, right? No, not that one. Did I delete it? That one? Oh, no. I did see that. I would think that it was probably some miscommunication between the aspect ratio change or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
By and large, those are never a problem. That was the first time I'd seen that in a long time. So good eye, you keep me honest. That's absolutely the truth.
So so it should do that naturally.
It should, should be properly presented in the program view. Yes.
Fair enough. That should is a very broad term in technology.
Yes.
So how do you bring logos into the Premiere Pro titler?
Oh, okay. So if I go ahead into, let's open this one up. You're going to make me remember that. I always forget. Graphic, insert graphic. So it's a right-click operation.
Okay.
So once you're in the titling tool, right-click, insert graphic. It'll open up a dialog box, and you can bring something in.
Perfect. Very cool. Now here's kind of a cool workflow question. Can you use dynamic linking between an After Effects artist and a Premiere user that are working remotely?
Right.
So they're not on the same system?
Right. So I would say that there's several ways to answer that, and I think that it's an exciting frontier for users moving forward. So I think one way, a very simple answer today is no, you can't do that. So you're like, wait a second, that stinks. Because the dynamic link functionality is really on the same system. But now the second answer that's getting a lot better is like if you guys are both on Creative Cloud, you both have shared storage, and I can post an After Effects comp, do a collects files, and post that on Creative Cloud and share those files with you, and you can in turn pull those down and use them. And so that is a level of collaboration. Now, the third one, and probably the most exciting one, is, and it's not really here for everybody here today, but the idea of Adobe Anywhere. So Adobe Anywhere is our foray. It is our, both feet in, all in bet for collaboration between different applications, different users, and right now it is a very high-end server-side enterprise-type-like product. But my hope is that will become available to a broader set of customers sometime in the future. Now, with the new release that we're talking about at IBC, there's some exciting things that are coming along with integration between Premiere and Prelude and After Effects that I think really speak to what that question is all about.
All right, great. Now, a couple questions that came up from the Encore question. Is there a standalone version of Encore CS6 that you can get?
No, there is not.
Okay.
You can still today buy a standalone copy of Premiere Pro CS6, which would entitle you to obviously Adobe Media Encoder and Adobe Encore, or you can also buy, I believe, still a full copy of Production Premium CS6, which would entitle you to all of the video applications, including Encore. But Encore has not for quite a long time been available as a standalone product.
All right. Quick tactical question: where do you log bug reports and feature requests?
Oh, there is a very public bug report and feature request, and very simply, if you say Adobe wish list or Adobe public bugs, you will get it. And in fact, actually, if you ask me another question, I bet I can find something for you.
All right, fair enough.
Okay.
You know, here's kind of a good broad question. With the Speedgrade effects now incorporated into Premiere, when do you suggest actually going into Speedgrade, and when do you remain in Premiere for color correction?
That's a tough one. So
yeah.
If we're still sharing my screen, you can see the feature request bug report form is the top hit on a simple Google or DuckDuckGo search. It's very, very easy. It's both a feature and a bug report. So please, we look at these quarterly. We tabulate them. We log them. We're very serious about these. And so if you log them, we'll look at them. And that's a promise. To your point on Speedgrade, I think it really comes down to the kind of user. Speedgrade is color grading as opposed to color correcting. And so there is a difference when we're talking about that. But without getting into all the details, I think more and more people are using color grading as a way to express emotional content with their storytelling by using light and color. But today, I mean, a lot of people, especially if you're not an advanced user, there are some terrific color correction / color grading like tools directly inside of Premiere Pro. I would point you primarily to the 3-way color correction tool. It's a deep tool that certainly bears a little investigation. So honestly, there's no clean answer for you on that one. Play with them and find out what's right for you, whatever you're comfortable with. Check out some of the tutorials, especially on Speedgrade, to find out if that's a right product for you.
Very cool. Let's wrap up with this one last question. It's kind of a good summary question, I feel like, for today. Can you, and if there's any other questions that you have, anyone out there, feel free to email myself. My email is nate.cooper@promax.com, or you can just send an email to sales@promax.com, and we'll be sure to get your questions answered. We can always pull Dennis into the conversation if need be, but if there's other questions, feel free to shoot those over. And then to wrap this up, Dennis, can you just kind of go back and show that integration of how you create After Effects files inside of Premiere Pro and how that dynamic linking works?
Sure. So if I'm in here and I want to go ahead and do one, you go to File, there's a dynamic link category right here. And I just go to New After Effects Composition, or if I've already created one and or a buddy of mine has made one that I'm going to now integrate into my production, I could go Import After Effects Composition. I can also, by the way, take any file and, whoops, let me just I could replace it with an After Effects composition. So there's just all kinds of crazy stuff. But to recap, File, Dynamic Link, New After Effects Composition, double check to make sure that it's the frame rate and frame size that you want. Click OK. If After Effects isn't already launched, it is going to launch it for you and ultimately give you an empty canvas and comp like you see here. So I can just go ahead and hi there, everybody. Right, and then go and where is it? Is it this one? Hi there, everybody. Right, so I can drag it in there and there you go. It's just that simple.
Very cool. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. This was a very informative webinar. We really appreciate you taking the time and joining us today. And if you want to see a replay, we will be sending an email out after the webinar with a replay link. That should be going out. I would say you should see that early next week. And then that will also be posted on our website. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at sales@promax.com. Thanks, Dennis. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.